Hi everyone, this is the Toxic Family Podcast, and this is the very first episode, and I really find it interesting and exciting for me and for you maybe either. The very first episode is called Stop Protecting Your Trauma, or When Your Trauma Kills Your Son. And I based this on BBC created documentary called Super Nanny, where Joe, the host, visits families and tries to figure out and help the family how to make their lives better. And so she visited a family that consists of mom and the son. And the background story is that mom is separated from the father of the son. And probably she was pretty much traumatized by this. And so the way she brought her son up was very dangerous for her son. So the attention of the woman went completely to her only son, and she fed him not only to provide him nutrition, but also to comfort him and please him. Only the negative side of the story is that the little boy is growing into a huge body. And basically the woman is locking him into this huge body. She's doing it obviously very unconsciously, but she prevents him from building normal age-appropriate connections at school because he's bullied. So she doesn't have friendships at school or outside of school. She doesn't have any kind of free time activities he could share with another child of his age because he's always with his mom. And so this way, actually, the woman is protecting her trauma because she would not be able to face with her son leaving him. So unconsciously what she's doing is that she's feeding him into this huge body, and then that prevents him from being social and being outside of the home. He doesn't develop social skills because he doesn't have social contacts. He's not socializing in a way that would help him later in his life because he doesn't have influences and impacts on his life. He doesn't meet with social situations that could be challenging, like falling in love or being rejected or to date, to experience a breakup. And so in this way, this little boy, I guess he was like 9 or 10 years old, his little boy is not only separated from his mates or his possible mates, but actually he is not learning the social skills that he will need later on in his life. How to deal with for example, traumas, or how to deal with rejections, how to deal with being separated from his partner later. So in this way, the woman is actually protecting her trauma, and the way she unconsciously do it by feeding his son is actually telling his son, honey, my trauma is more important for you. I don't want to face with it. And so you have to respect my trauma because my trauma comes first. And this is a very toxic message. Not only that the little boy is not growing in an age-appropriate way, but at the same time, his body is failing, obviously. It's not functioning well with a lot of overweight. As I was listening to this little boy, actually, he was very bright. He used texts or words and expressions that were much higher above his age. And it's brilliant, beautiful, but it's obvious that he spends a lot of time in front of the television. That was also obvious from the movie or from the episode, but also a lot of time with his mom. And the way he spoke was not natural of his age. So going back to the body, so his body is failing. He has to manage a gigantic body. I'm so sorry to say this, but it's a beautiful little kid, but captured actually and held hostage in a big body. This body is not functioning well. I can imagine that he has problems, physical discomforts, maybe beginning diabetes. I don't know, because that was not stated. And also the emotional discomfort he suffers from the bullying. And here's the message again: I have to run home to mommy because there I'm safe. I'm accepted, I'm not bullied. But this life is not like that. I mean, this life would never tell this little kid or later a grown-up adult that, honey, I know that you don't have skills to deal with breakups, so I'm going to provide you with a partner who will be with you for the rest of your life, because life is just not like that. So Joe, the host, asked actually the little boy, because it's a very good show, because the host, the super nanny, he takes a lot of time to talk to these little people in this show. And so she asked the little boy that, what do you do in your free time? And he said, yeah, I'm watching telly with my mom, and we always plan something to do, but outside of the home. But obviously his mom was sabotaging it, because at the very last moment something always happens, and then the planned activities just are cancelled. And so let's see, what's the trauma here? The trauma is here the unprocessed emotions that I was left behind. And it was awful, and I didn't want to face this again, such an awful situation. So the woman could have chosen two different ways. One, she deals with the trauma, and then she says, I solve my emotional problems. I'm out of these limiting beliefs. And as a result, I will live an unlimited life, and I will give also an unlimited life to my son. But she chose the second one. It's unconscious. So it's not like people sit down with pen and paper and then they make a conscious decision that, okay, I'm going to protect my trauma and I will put my family under it. So it's not the case. But in this case, unconsciously, she said, I lock my son to myself, and I will hold him hostage in this big body. I feed him. He will feel fine with me, and then he will not want to leave me. And then secondary, he is bullied. He doesn't have friends, so the friends are not threats. He will stay at home with me. It's actually neglect. So the woman is neglecting the basic needs of his son. His son, the basic needs are actually shelter, medication, food, clothing, and safety. That he gets it. But emotional upbringing and meeting with age-appropriate situations and preventing him from meeting with age-appropriate situations is a neglect. It's neglect. And so in this case, actually her trauma is limiting the upbringing and the managing of social skills of this little boy. Also, it's a physical neglect, obviously, because his body is suffering. And yes, I wanted to just do a little brainstorming, because maybe you have a different kind of trauma you're protecting and you don't know anything about it, because you are not separated and you do not want to hold on to your kids and you're providing them a free life. But you can think about the following examples, like family-related examples, like growing up in toxic families where you were limited by the rules of your parents or the traumas of your parents. So if someone is not looking into the eyes of the trauma and not processing the emotions, then it will limit not only her life, but the life of his kids and the following generations, because then trauma will be passed on to the next generations. So growing up in a toxic family is a highly traumatizing experience. Then losing a spouse, losing a child is a highly traumatizing event. Or you can think about personality-related things like rejection, or leaving behind or being separated. But you can think of sport-related situations when you are traumatized, then like falling from a horse, or almost drowning, or any kind of injury you get, and then even if that kind of sport was your passion, you just don't go back and do it with pleasure. Or having a car accident. You see, if you have a car accident and you say, okay, I'm not gonna drive ever again because I'm so scared, and then you do not take your kids to a theme park or a zoo or somewhere, or for a camp, for example, because you decided you're not gonna drive again, then actually you are preventing them, or not you, your trauma is preventing them from doing something to be able to take part in this life fully. And so that's why it's very important as parents to work with our traumas, because not every event will become a trauma. I put it out on Facebook, or not from Facebook, on Facebook and Instagram also, and you can follow me on the social media because I post every day, and my channel is called Silent Trauma Healing. And so if you are with me so far, like 12 minutes into my very first podcast, so what I posted on Instagram was that imagine that you see your cat being hit and killed on the road, and then you go to your parents and you say, Mom and Dad, I'm so sad, I'm devastated, and you want to talk about these feelings and the impacts you have as eyewitnessing the death of your cat, and they reject it. They are not able to connect with you on an emotional level. Then they will say something like, "Oh, next week we will buy you a new cat, and don't worry." No, don't worry. Maybe they don't even say that. They just go, "Stop acting so foolish. We will buy you a new cat next week," and then you are stuck with your unprocessed emotions. So your sadness, your frustration, your shock, because I can imagine that even for an adult, it's shocking to see an animal being killed. And so imagine that trauma stays with you. Not every person is traumatized by eyewitnessing something horrible, because those people who have learned as kids how to process their emotions, they will not be traumatized. So in this case, if you recognize that you're living with a trauma, then I'm telling you that please look for help. You can contact me, but you can contact in a different kind of help source. So it doesn't have to be a coach; it can be a therapy or anything. But it's very important to come into contact with your emotions, because these emotions will limit your life and will limit the lives of the generations coming after you. So thank you for listening to me. I'm very happy to do this because I love to talk and I love to share my opinion. I love to share my knowledge on toxic families and toxic upbringing. Bear me with my accent. I'm switching between English and American, and you can hear a little Dutch influence and a little Hungarian influence. I'm mixing up everything, so bear with me. Again, my website is silenttraumahealing.com. It's dedicated for people coming from toxic families, toxic relationships, having an awful or toxic or dysfunctional mother-daughter relationships. So contact me and have a lovely day. Bye-bye.